Good afternoon, evening, something. I don't know what time of day it is. I'm old. Welcome, everybody, to the third race of the season for the NCRA Stadium Super Truck Series as we are here at Monstered Truck Rally. Getting ready for our first heat. Then we got our second heat. We will have our LCQ and our main event. Top 6 in the heat races and the top 3 in the LCQ transfer into the main event. And that's where you get the most points. So, as we get set for tonight's first heat, it'll be 10 laps of racing here around this track, which is just a little over 1.7 miles in length. It's a road course. Half of it's paved, half of it is dirt. So it's going to basically appeal to whichever side of the spectrum these drivers are on. If they're really good at driving on paved tracks, you'll see them probably excel at this portion of the racetrack. If they're really good at dirt racing, you'll see them excel on the second half of the course. And it's going to be a wild one, too, because remember, there's no damage, there's no cautions. If you wreck, well, just keep your foot in the throttle, hope that your car, or your truck in this case, remains on all 4 wheels, and you can maybe be able to sneak out a top 6 to make it into the main event and not have to rely on the LCQ. Let's take a look at our starting lineup here in this first heat of who's starting where. Of course, it's still the same drivers that were in the first heat races for Island Rally and the week before at Coliseum, but it'll be Kyle Matthews who will start on the pole alongside of Jonathan Zorlin. Matthew Rodriguez with Dallas McIntosh, who won the first race of the year at Coliseum. Chris Dollerton alongside of James Qualls. Zach Rogers alongside last week's winner from Island Rally, Preston Plord. Matt Haas and Cole Baker make up the next row. Quentin Moore and Ryan Brommer, third in the points coming to this race. Adam Garcia alongside of Seth Cole. Michael Norman alongside of Ashlyn Boyd. Alvaro Torres, second in points alongside of Jack Mitchell. Levi McIntyre alongside the points leader Carson Gum as we get the command.
Drivers, start your engines!
And Dylan Young, who comes into this race fifth in points, will be in the final row starting 21st. So as these trucks roll off here, point standings coming into this race currently, it's Carson Gum, the points leader, 10 points in hand over Alvaro Torres. Carson's been very consistent this year, no doubt about that. And then it's Ryan Brommer. He is third in points. He is 13 points back. Benny Watson, who we'll see in the second heat, he is fourth, 15 points out of the top position. Dylan Young, we mentioned, is fifth in the standings. He is 19 points back from the points lead. And our 2 previous winners, Preston Plord last week and Dallas McIntosh the week before at Coliseum, they are tied for 6th, 22 points back as the green flag's in the air. We're racing at Monstered Rally. Up over the jump they go, and Jonathan Zorlin's going to take the top spot away from Kyle Matthews. You see his transition from dirt to pavement, Kyle Matthews drops back to second place. Battle is on for third between Matthew Rodriguez in the 13, Chris Dollerton in the 12. Both very dark shaded trucks. One's black and one's a charcoal gray. Now it's a battle between Chris Dollerton and Dallas McIntosh for fourth. Matthews trying to run down Jonathan Zorlin. And this is going to be the fun part right here, that little area where it's a downhill section. The trucks take flight. All 4 tires leave the racing surface. And it's going to come down to who lands. It's not quite the same decline as that big jump, that final turn at Coliseum, but it's a little bit similar to it. So it'll be fun to see if these drivers are able to land it or not. Right now, this would be the battle for the final transfer position. Zach Rogers has it. James Qualls wants it. Qualls going to run that corner a little bit wide, though, and now he's under fire from Matt Haas. That's for 7th. So right now, Zach Rogers in the final transfer position. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to put Chris Dollerton back into that position. This is a battle for 5th place. McIntosh right now in 4th. Despite having a win this season, as he lands it pretty nicely there off the downhill jump. Despite having a win, as I mentioned, tied for 6th in points. So obviously, getting a win in the main event, that's obviously great. It gives you good points, but you go back, you look at something like what Carson Gum's been able to do in the first 2 races of the season. He's accumulated 54 points which technically is more points he would gain than if he were to have won both races to start off the season, which is only a total of 50 points. So it just shows how consistent he's been, and in the races, you know, the heat races, the LCQ, the main event, whatever have you, he's made sure that he's had himself finish high enough that he's accumulated really good points. The same could be said for Alvaro Torres and Ryan Brumman. The top 5 in the point standings are drivers that haven't won yet this season. Kyle Matthews trying to run down Jonathan Zorlin, but Zorlin right now doing a good job keeping his truck stable on the racetrack and keeping a pretty sizable lead between himself and Kyle Matthews. Last time by, it was about 7/10. He gained another 3/10 that time, now to a full second over the 5. I'm looking to see, I don't think Jonathan Zorlin has scored any points yet this season. No, he has not. So this is a big opportunity for one of 2 reasons. Number 1, it'll be the first points he's scored so far this year. And we're 2 races into the season, now 3 if you count tonight's event. And it'll be the first time in his career here in the Super Stadium Truck Series that he will make an appearance in the main event. So he's hoping that these lap times tick away quickly. There's a couple of drivers I noticed that are not up towards the front. There's one of them, Dylan Young, 5th in the points coming into this race. Right now back in 20th. And there is Carson Gum back in 18th, the points leader. So both these drivers in danger right now of not making it into the main event, at least right now. Alvaro Torres, 2nd in points as well, is back here. So these drivers, they're in danger of not making it into the main event via the heat race. They'd have to rely on the LCQ. Where is Ryan Brummer? He's back in 12th. So right now, of the drivers that are top 5 in the points days, 4 of them in total here in this first heat, they are all outside the top 10. Preston Plord right now in 10th place, tied for 6th in the point standings with Dallas McIntosh. McIntosh is 3rd, so McIntosh right now looks like he'd be the guy that would gain some really good points right now based off of where he's running and where everybody else is running. Let's follow the battle for the transfer spot. Right now it's in possession of Chris Dollerton. James Qualls right behind him trying to run him down. Then behind him is Cole Baker in 8th. So right now, this is the battle for the transfer spot to get into the main event between Dollerton and Qualls. You got Zach Rogers just up ahead. Matthew Rodriguez right now as well in a transfer spot, currently in 4th. McIntosh in 3rd. Matthews there in 2nd. And then almost 2 seconds ahead is Jonathan Zorlin in the 9. Kyle Matthews, has he scored any points yet this season? No, he has not. So, boy, take a look there at our top 2. Neither driver has scored a single point yet this year. And right now, they're running 1 and 2. So this is a big opportunity for both of those drivers. Matthew Rodriguez, as I'm looking at the point standings as well, he's yet to score any points. So we've got at least 3 drivers here in this first heat race that are going to score their first points of the season. Zach Rogers has scored points. He has 3 points coming into this race, but obviously wanting to build off of that. Saw some smoke there, and I thought someone might have been wrecking. Chris Dollerton, he's only got 2 points coming into this race so far in the first 2 races of the season. And James Qualls coming into this race, he currently has 13 points. So if you look at the top 7, there's only 2 drivers coming to this race with more than 10 points. Qualls with 13, and obviously Dallas McIntosh with his win at Coliseum, he has 32 points. But for Rodriguez and Matthews and the race leader Zorlin, they're looking to, for the first time this season, get themselves up there on the board as far as the point standings are concerned. Zorlin very cautiously taking that uphill section just before the start-finish line. 3 laps to go here in this heat. We're going to drop back here to this battle for second. Dallas McIntosh has been slowly reeling in Kyle Matthews while they've been losing touch with Jonathan Zorlin. Now, why would McIntosh want to pass Kyle Matthews? Well, remember, he's trying to run down Carson Gum for the points lead. Right now, looks like he's going to make it into the main event with where he's currently running. So he wants to pass Kyle Matthews because in the heats, 3rd place gives you 8 points, Second place gives you 10 points. That's a 2-point difference if he's able to pass Kyle Matthews for the runner-up spot here in this heat race. Looks like Dollarton right now is pretty firmly in control of that final transfer position. James Qualls kind of drifting back, might actually fall back into the clutches of Cole Baker. Remember that only the top 6 transfer into the main event, but it's the top 9 in each heat race that get points. So right now, James Qualls in line to get 3 points, Cole Baker in line to get 2 points, and right now Matt Haas would be in position to get the final point in this heat race. He's under fire from last week's winner, Preston Plord. 2 laps to go here. After Jonathan Zorlin hit the line, James Qualls doesn't look like he's got anything for Chris Dollarton, at least not right now. I think he's hoping that Chris makes a mistake. We'll follow that on the last lap. As up here, Kyle Matthews still under fire from Dallas McIntosh, though McIntosh hasn't really been able to do anything with Kyle Matthews as of yet. Jonathan Zorlin about to come through the final few sections here, and he'll see the white flag. Through the downhill, into the left-hander, then to the right-hander, then the uphill bump to the start-finish line. White flag is in the air for the 9 of Jonathan Zorlin. 1 more lap to go here in our first heat. Oh, and Dallas McIntosh got around Kyle Matthews for second. So now Matthews falls back to third. There's Rodriguez holding court there in fourth. Rogers in fifth. And this is the battle for the transfer spot between Chris Dollarton and James Qualls. Last time by about 1.1 second separation between the 12 and the 20. It's the difference between who's going to race in the main event and who is going to have to rely on the LCQ. Looks like Qualls now under fire from Cole Baker, so that might have just sealed the deal for Chris Dollarton to make it into the main event, which I believe is going to be for the first time this season for him. It obviously will be the same for Zorlin. It'll be the same for Matthews, as well as Zach Rogers, I do believe. And Matthew Rodriguez. As Zorlin crossed the line, he wins the first heat race. He's into the main event. McIntosh gets second, Matthews third, Rodriguez fourth, Rogers fifth, and Chris Dollarton makes it into the main event as he will finish in the final transfer spot in sixth. And yes, I am correct. Dollarton, Rodriguez, Rogers, Matthews, and Zorlin will all be taking part in their first main event of the season here tonight at Marsterd Truck Rally. James Qualls will have to rely on the LCQ to get into the main event, but he will get the 7th position as far as points. Cole Baker and Matt Haas will also get points for this heat, but again, they also will have to rely on the LCQ. So Jonathan Zorlin, it's his first win overall, if you will, whether it be a heat race, an LCQ race, or the main event this season, and it'll be his first appearance in the main event here this season. Dallas McIntosh going to get second, so he gets 10 points here for this heat race, as neither Carson Gum, nor Dylan Young, nor Alvaro Torres, nor Ryan Brommer managed to make it into the main event, at least here through the heat. They'll have to all rely on the LCQ, so Dallas McIntosh in good position right now to maybe, just maybe, be able to take the points lead heading into next week's race, depending on what happens in the LCQ. So it's Zorlin, McIntosh, Matthews, Rodriguez, Rogers, and Dollarton who transfer in the first heat. Let's get ready for the second heat, see who's going to transfer there before we get ready for the LCQ. So now we get ready for our second heat race. 6 drivers have transferred into the main event at this point. 6 more drivers at the conclusion of this heat will have transferred into the main event as well. It'll be Kyle Thomas lining up on the pole for this one. Kyle Thomas, we saw, I think it was, 5 of the 6 drivers that transferred into the main event from the first heat had not been in the main event yet. Well, there were, 3 or 4 of them that had just moments ago gotten their first points of the season. Well, Kyle Thomas, if he's able to transfer into the main event, he would fall into that category as well. So far, he has a 0, a goose egg, as far as points this season. So he starts on the pole. We'll see if that's going to help him be able to get his first points of the year, as I apparently missed my, there it is. And he will start alongside of Derek Hamill in the 28. Now, Derek Hamill comes into this race, I believe, 9th in points, 26 points. However, he has made it into the main event, I think, both times. And regardless of that, he's kind of struggled a little bit in those. I remember he had a really good run going last week at Island Rally, and ended up flipping over and did not finish quite where he wanted to. As the next row will feature Wyatt Quayle and Jesse Turner. Raphael Leduc, who had a great run last week at Island Rally, lines up alongside of Carter Friesen. Jordan Lopez with Johnny Gardner, who of course won the LCQ race back at Coliseum. Then it's Matt McIntyre alongside of Wade Brummer. Mitchell Collins, who had an unbelievable run last week at Island Rally, finished, I believe, was second place to Preston Plord, and comes into this race 7th in the point standings alongside of Zach Winkle. James Shelley lines up alongside of Cody Smart. Then it's Cole Deaver alongside Andrew Rich. We're going to get the command real quick.
Drivers, start your engines! Is that okay?
Zachary Fitzwater alongside of Bobby Frazier. Benny Watson starting way at the back here, comes in 4th in the points alongside of Austin LaPlante, and it'll be Alexander Rowe who will bring up the tail end of the field. So a couple of drivers to watch in this one that are running well in the point standings. Obviously Benny Watson 4th in the point standings, Mitchell Collins 7th in the points, and Derek Hamill, who comes into this race actually 10th in points. Johnny Gardner is 11th in points, Cody Smart 12th, Carter Friesen 13th, Wyatt Quayle 14th, Raphael Leduc 15th, Andrew Rich 16th. So, there's some drivers here that if they transfer into the main event, they could be up inside the top 10 in points at the conclusion of this evening's main event. Green flag getting ready to fly. We're underway in a second heat, and it looked like Derek Hamill was ready for the drop of the green as he's going to get out in front. Jesse Turner trying to take second place now away from Kyle Thomas. I am a little bit confused why the pole sitter starts on the right side if the first corner is a left-hand turn, but I don't know. Turner's going to clear for second place, move Kyle Thomas back to third, at least for now. And now we'll see if if Jesse Turner can run down Derek Hamill for the race lead. Down the downhill section, now into the final few corners of the course, and we saw Jonathan Zorlin dominate the first heat race. Nobody was able to get to him. A little bit closer of a battle right now, at least, between Derek Hamill and Jesse Turner. Hamill has 26 points so far this season. Jesse Turner, on the other hand, only has 10. Kyle Thomas now slots back in the third position. Wyatt Quayle to the inside of Raphael Leduc. That is for fourth. Leduc with a great run last week at Island Rally. Made it into his first main event. Trying to now make it into back-to-back main events as he will at least hold on for the moment to the fourth spot over Wyatt Quayle. And right now the final transfer position is in possession of Matt McIntyre. It's a long ways back before you get to this battle that's going on around 7th, 8th, 9th. Jordan Lopez, James Shelley, Carter Friesen, Andrew Rich, all fighting for positions. Excuse me. A little bit of a gap between me recording the Island Rally race and this race because I've been fighting a cold. I'm just on the tail end of it now, I think. And I was just kind of waiting for my voice to be back to 100% to be able to commentate for you guys, and it's starting to wear out a little bit already. Only into the second heat, so I hope I'm not going to be in trouble by the time we get to the main event. Derek Hamill continues to lead, but he hasn't really shook Jesse Turner. Jesse Turner is right there. And of course, we talked about, these drivers up here right now towards the front, these top three, looking like they're in really good position to be able to make it into the main event. It was while Turner messed up that corner really badly, messed up the downhill section, almost flipped over. And now he loses second to Kyle Thomas, who actually is now right on the back bumper of Derek Hamill for the lead. But, these guys, obviously, they're up here inside the top six. You're wondering, well, why are they battling each other? Well, it's because of the points. First place in the heat race gets 12 points. Second gets 10. Third gets 8. Fourth gets 7. Fifth gets 5. So even though you're in a good spot to be able to transfer into the main event, you want to get every point possible. I mean, that's how Carson Gum has been able to accumulate the points lead he has in just the first two races of the season. Matt McIntyre now battling for 4th place with Wyatt Quayle. That has dropped Rafael LeDuc back to 6th in that final transfer spot. Driver tried to run him down right now. 7th place, Jordan Lopez. Turner was much better in that part of the course than he was last lap, and we've had a lead change. First time we can say that here tonight. As Zorlin led every lap in the first heat, Kyle Thomas, who started on the pole, lost it to Derek Hamill at the initial drop of the green flag, battled back, got by Jesse Turner for 2nd, takes the lead away from Derek Hamill, and he's now out in front. Trying to get his first points of the season. Mentioned Derek Hamill comes into this race top 10 in points. Side by side here, boy, I'll tell you what, Matt McIntyre is a man on a mission. He was 6th not too long ago. He's now battling for 3rd with Jesse Turner. That's a fast truck. Turner's got points coming into this race. What about Matt McIntyre? Would this be his first points of the season? Yes, they would. Wyatt Quayle, obviously we mentioned him. He's up in the top 15 in points. Oh, Matt McIntyre spins it! And there goes LeDuc. We got a flipper. Wyatt Quayle up and over. And that's going to change the aspect of the top 6. Matt McIntyre keeps it going, but both he, Wyatt Quayle, and Rafael LeDuc all just dropped out of the top 6. Who's the ticker say is up there now? Lopez is now in 4th, Carter Friesen's in 5th, and Johnny Gardner right now would be in 6th place. There is Gardner. Just like that, Lopez, Friesen, and Gardner up into transfer spots, and now it's James Shelley trying to run down Johnny Gardner for 6th. Andrew Rich right behind him, as well as Mitchell Collins there in the 31. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not Mitchell Collins, that's Cody Smart. Mitchell Collins is the 41. I was thinking it was the 31. Actually, that's Collins right there in the 41. Back in 11th, right behind the 30 of Zach Winkle. Well, I knew that downhill section was a trouble spot. And it certainly played havoc right there and definitely played a factor into who might be transferring to the main event and who might not. This has been a great battle for the lead between Kyle Thomas and Derek Hamill, though. The positioning is a 2-point difference. And obviously, Kyle Thomas trying to get his first points of the season. But Derek Hamill, on the other hand, wants to get up there inside of the top 5 in points, which he could do possibly with a win here in this heat. Jesse Turner holding on to 3rd. Got a battle going on here for 4th between Jordan Lopez and Carter Friesen. Friesen's going to get to the inside. So I believe is a left-hander up here, and I think he will clear for the spot. Lopez going to hold it high, wide, and handsome, and nope, has to give it up here through this corner. Matter of fact, that might have cost him some momentum, and Johnny Gardner sweeps around for 5th. So now Lopez falls back into the final transfer position. James Shelley quite a ways back, though. That last time by, Shelley was about 1.4 seconds behind the 32. So he needs a little bit more help if he's going to get up there and take a transfer spot away from Jordan Lopez. Of course, if any of these top 6 run into issues, James Shelley would probably be there to capitalize as well, but he's got less than 3 laps to go. So if something's going to happen, it's going to happen quick. Kyle Thomas trying to drive as defensively as he can, but he doesn't want to make a mistake, obviously. Whoa, almost did right there as he got a little bit too much in the front. Almost flipped over. Derek Hamill tries to get alongside of him, couldn't make the pass. Kyle Thomas battled back, holds on to the spot. Johnny Gardner getting a bit of the curbing there, and oh, look at this, visibly. James Shelley has caught Jordan Lopez. He reeled him in a little bit quicker that time. Now the gap between the two is 1.2 seconds. No, I'm sorry, it's actually less than that. It's only 0.8 of a second. Shelley is right there, as is Andrew Rich. It may not be over for who's going to get a transfer spot. Those final few sections of the course have really played havoc here in this the second heat rather. The first heat didn't seem to be nearly as much of an issue, but it definitely has been here all the way through the field in the second heat. And this next time by will be the white flag lap, so we got 2 more times we'll encounter this corner, including right now. Thomas hits it fine. Hamill hit it all right. See if Lopez can hit it well. Yes, he does. James Shelley right there, though. Andrew Rich as well, trying to close in. They are there. They're within striking distance. This time by, the gap between the 32 and the 42, 6/10. Can he catch him is the question. Here's the battle for the win in this heat. Looks like Derek Campbell may have just conceded the win to Kyle Thomas. He's not really challenging him right at the moment, just kind of riding in the tire tracks of the 38. Derek Campbell, I think, realizes he wants to make it into the main event, accumulate those points, rather than cost himself a chance of transferring into the main event by trying to get the win here in this heat, which is very smart. Will this downhill section play a factor in the closing stages? Oh, wow. Derek Campbell did not hit that very well. Top 5 did. What about Lopez? Lopez hits it correctly. Shelley's not quite close enough to make a move. Lopez is going to get to the line, and he will transfer to the main event, along with Johnny Gardner, Carter Friesen, Jesse Turner, Derek Campbell, and your winner from the second heat, Kyle Thomas, who gets his first points of the season. And it takes place here in our third event of the year. Now, one driver who is not going to transfer and have to rely on the LCQ, fourth in the standings, Benny Watson. Started near the rear of the field and, well, never really made his way up there. Finished in 19th in this heat race. A couple of other drivers running well in the points that are going to have to rely on the LCQ. Cody Smart, Mitchell Collins, Zachary Fitzwater as well. You see Matt McIntyre, he had got involved in that wreck. Finished 15th. Wyatt Quayle back in 18th. And Rafael Leduc back in 20th. All will have to rely on the LCQ to make it into the main event. So it's Kyle Thomas, Derek Campbell, Jesse Turner, Carter Friesen, Johnny Gardner, and Jordan Lopez, who are all going to transfer into the main event. Out of those top 6, only one of them, Kyle Thomas, getting his first points of the season. Time now to find out who are going to be the final 3 drivers that will battle it out in the 15-truck main event. LCQ is coming up right now. So getting ready here for the LCQ. Now, in the last 2 races that we had at Coliseum and Island Rally, those tracks were able to fit all 40 drivers on the racetrack, well, all 42 drivers, I should say, on the racetrack, although we've never had that happen. Most we've had on the racetrack are 30 in our LCQ races. This track can only hold 28, so the 2 drivers that finished dead last in their respective heats, Heat 1 and Heat 2, they do not get a chance here in the LCQ race. So the last place driver in the first heat race was Seth Cole. The last place driver in the LCQ race number 2 was Wade Brummer. So neither one of those drivers taking part here in the LCQ, so they don't even have a chance to be able to get points for this race, and I don't think either one of them had any points coming into this race anyway, so that's a tough break for both of them. So there'll be 28 drivers here in this LCQ. Top 3 transfer into the main event. And you got to think, based off of what we saw in our 2 heat races, that track position very important, and Adam Garcia lines up on the pole for this one. And he will start alongside of Dylan Young. Then it's Mitchell Collins and James Shelley making up row number 2. Ashlyn Boyd and Cole Baker. Quentin Moore and Benny Watson. Watson with a much better starting spot here in the LCQ than he had in his heat race. Michael Norman right there. We didn't really talk about Michael Norman, but Norman comes into this race, I believe it's 9th in points, so he really needs to get in via the LCQ. James Qualls right there. Qualls is transferred via the LCQ back at Coliseum, so he knows how to do it. Matt McIntyre and Zach Winkle. Cole Deaver and Carson Gum. Talking about a driver who really needs to get in via the LCQ. Wyatt Quayle and Bobby Frazier. Austin LaPlante, Cody Smart, Ryan Brommer, Rafael Leduc, Jack Mitchell, Alvaro Torres, second in points. Really needs to get in via the LCQ. Zachary Fitzwater, last week's winner, Preston Plord, Andrew Rich, Matt Haas, Levi McIntyre,
Drivers,
and
start
Alexander
your
Rowe
engines.
in the final row. And it'll only be 8 laps here in this LCQ as opposed to the 10 laps we had in the heat races. So if you're someone like Carson Gum or Alvaro Torres or Ryan Brommer or Benny Watson, boy, you want to get up to the front ASAP. So here we go. Dylan Young, 5th in points. This is a big opportunity for him to maybe make it into the main event. He came into the race, 19 points back from Carson Gum, so we could see him maybe be able to make the main event and takes the points lead after the racing here tonight at Monstered Rally. We'll have to wait and see, though. Anything can happen these final 8 laps of the LCQ. As they roll down to the start-finish line, and green flag is in the air. LCQ is underway. Look at him, almost 3 wide back there. Dylan Young going to try and take the spot down here into this left-hander. Adam Garcia going to try and swing around on the outside, can't do it. Mitchell Collins now going to battle with him for second as Dylan Young's going to scamper away, at least for the moment, with the lead. Garcia trying to shake Mitchell Collins. They don't want Dylan Young to get too far ahead. And we'll have to see if the downhill section, which played a big factor into who transferred and who didn't in the second heat race, if it plays a factor into this one here in the LCQ. Dylan Young hits it. Everybody else does as well as Collins moves to second. Ashlyn Boyd going to slide by for third. That's for the final transfer spot right now. I believe that's Carson Gum right there. No, it's Michael Norman actually. Wrong orange truck. There's Carson Gum a little bit further back. He's got to really put the pedal to the metal if he's going to get up there for a transfer spot. This is a battle right now for fourth between Adam Garcia and Benny Watson. They're trying to reel in Ashlyn Boyd, who right now holds the transfer position into the main event, the final transfer position. 3 wide back here. James Shelley, Cole Baker, and Benny Watson. Settle it out. Watson's going to hold on to the spot. That's 5th place. That's going to take him, at least for the moment, out of the run of trying to get up there and take second place. Dylan Young out in front. Mitchell Collins there in second. 2 drivers running very well in the point stand, as a matter of fact. Collins comes into this race 7th in points. Dylan Young 5th in points. So both of them really could benefit from transferring into the main event. Ashlyn Boyd comes into this race with only 3 points. Down at the bottom of the point standings right now, and trying to make it into what I believe would be the first appearance in the main event for Ashlyn Boyd this season. Adam Garcia has never been in the main event yet either. Only 1 point right now for Adam Garcia. Benny Watson right there in 5th. He's got a shot. It's got to make something happen quick, because remember, it's only 8 laps here in the LCQ. James Shelley right there in 6th. Shelley has 15 points this season. James Qualls right there in 7th. Remember, he ended up making it into the LCQ, via the LCQ to the main event at Coliseum. He has 13 points coming to this race. There's Michael Norman. Norman 8th in points coming to this race. Right now scored in 9th, and right now in 10th. Well, actually, he's in 8th, rather. Baker's back in 9th. And 10th right now is Wyatt Quayle. Here's the driver right now that should be pretty worried. That is Carson Gum back in the 14th position. And it looks like he might miss out on the main event for the first time this season. Meanwhile, Dylan Young continues to lead the way over Mitchell Collins. Collins, I don't think right now, really worried about getting up there and battling with Dylan Young for the win here in this LCQ. I think Mitchell Collins, looking at the big picture, just wants to make it into the main event, as opposed to the heat races where, you know, there's 12 points on the line for winning. There's only 3 points on the line for winning the LCQ, 2 points to second place, 1 point to third place. So it's not a huge points difference there. So the battling for a position not necessarily as necessary in the LCQ race. But right now, Benny Watson has been able to make his way up to the 4th position, trying now to reel in the 18 of Ashlyn Boyd. James Shelley right behind him as well there in 5th. Both of them managed to get around Adam Garcia, who's fallen back now to, I think that's the 7th position. So Adam Garcia, looks like he might be out of the hunt. And we'll see if Benny Watson can make up any ground on Ashlyn Boyd here in the remaining 3 and a couple corners left. The last time by, it was about 1.1 seconds from Ashlyn Boyd back to Benny Watson. And I think that this jump is going to play a big factor into whether he'll be able to reel Ashland Boyd in or not. Boyd hits it perfectly. Watson seemed to hit it pretty well also. So they both might have canceled each other out. I think it just comes down to who's been laying down the better lap times. Let's see if the gap closes up between Watson and Boyd at that time by. Still 1.1 seconds. And while Benny Watson's got his focus in front of him trying to reel in Ashland Boyd, he's also got to look in his rearview mirror because James Shelley is right there as well. It all comes down to who hits their marks here as to who's going to get that final spot. If Ashland Boyd can just not make a mistake, Ashland Boyd's got the final transfer spot. Dylan Young. He's the guy I'm looking at right now. He and Mitchell Collins, based on who's transferred into the main event and right now who's in line to transfer into the main event, of who could maybe take the points lead over after the main event is over here tonight. James Shelley messed up that corner a little bit. That alleviates the pressure of Benny Watson in his rearview mirror. Now he's just got to focus on trying to reel in Ashland Boyd. That time by at the line, still 1.1 seconds. So they're both running identical lap times, it looks like. Although that last time by, they're saying Benny Watson was faster. Ashland Boyd ran a 55.702, Watson a 55.637, which was actually his fastest lap so far. But he's just not catching Ashland Boyd quickly enough. Oh, that time there was a really good corner for Benny Watson. He is visibly closing. He's found something. But is it too little too late? It's going to be the white flag this next time by when Dylan Young gets to the line. Looks like Mitchell Collins might be closing in on Dylan Young a little bit here too. Will we have a battle for the race win in the LCQ? Boyd hits. Watson hits. I don't think he's close enough though. He could see Ashland Boyd, but I don't know if he's close enough to get the spot. This time by, it's now only 7/10 separating Ashland Boyd from Benny Watson. Boyd ran a 55.8, Watson a 55.4. He is faster than Ashland Boyd, but it might be that time is not on his side. Dylan Young. Mitchell Collins is getting larger and larger in his rearview mirror. It all comes down to who makes a mistake, I think. And I think it might be that downhill section that's going to be the difference maker. Dylan Young about to hit that portion of the track. Down the downhill. We got a little loose. Got a little loose. Here comes Collins. Nah, I don't know if Collins is going to get there, though. Close. Watson's on the back bumper of Ashland Boyd, but he's not going to be able to get there. Ashland Boyd's going to get the final transfer spot. Mitchell Collins will finish second. He's into the main event, as is Dylan Young, who'll get 3 points, winning tonight's LCQ. Boy, that got exciting. Collins almost got the win. Watson, so close. What was the gap between them there at the line? 4/10. Watson actually, in the last 3 laps, ran his 3 fastest laps of the race. So he had found something late. It just was too little too late. I think if he maybe had had one more lap, he might have maybe been able to get that spot from Ashland Boyd. That's a tough break there for Benny Watson, coming so close. I mean, he comes into this race 4th in the point standings. And it looks like he's going to be leaving Monster Rally with no points whatsoever. As will Carson Gum, Alvaro Torres. They finish in 14th and 15th, 1st and 2nd in points. Ryan Brommer finished 25th. That was 3rd in points. Watson was 4th in points. So the guy you're looking at right there, Dylan Young, 5th in the standings. He will be in the main event. He will accumulate points. And he could very well be your points leader heading into next week. Mitchell Collins also could be someone to look at. Same for Dallas McIntosh. They've all transferred into the main event. Derek Hamill possibly as well. Johnny Gardner. Really all depends on how the chips fall, on who qualifies where and how the main event goes. So it'll be Dylan Young, Mitchell Collins, and Ashland Boyd. They're the only drivers that get points here in this LCQ, and they get the final 3 positions in the main event here tonight. So don't go anywhere. It's time to get ready for main event racing. Who's going to join Dallas McIntosh and Preston Plord as a winner this season in the Stadium Super Truck Series in the NSRA? We're going to find out right now. All right, then, getting set for our main event. And I actually just looked back and I realized that actually I was wrong. I thought that the driver that started on the outside, on the right side, was actually the pole sitter. I was wrong. It's actually the driver that starts on the left side. So that actually does make sense. I was wondering, why would you have the driver that starts on the right side, first corner be a left-hander, be declared the pole sitter? Well, I apparently wasn't looking at the grid. So Chris Dollerton's actually the pole sitter for the main event. Chris Dollerton, with only 2 points coming into this race, would love to be able to, in his first main event appearance, go to victory lane. And alongside of him is the 32 of Jordan Lopez, who just squeaked his way in the final transfer position in the second heat race. Let's take a look at the rest of the starting lineup of the 15 drivers that made it in, whether it be via the heat races or the LCQ. Dylan Young, who won the LCQ race just moments ago, lines up alongside of Zach Rogers, who transferred in from the first heat. Jesse Turner transferred in from the second heat. Jonathan Zorlin won the first heat. Kyle Matthews, he transferred in the first heat as we're about to get the command.
Drivers, start your engines!
We obviously have Arnold Schwarzenegger here. Mitchell Collins finished second in the LCQ to transfer in. Kyle Thomas ended up winning the second heat race. Dallas McIntosh transferred in from the first heat race. Matthew Rodriguez as well did the same. Carter Friesen transferred in from the second LCQ, or from the second heat race. Ashton Boyd got the final spot in the LCQ, third place. Derek Hamill transferred in second place in the second heat race, and I believe that's the starting lineup. Yes, it is. So here we go then. 15 laps of racing here in our main event. And a couple drivers to watch out for that really could maybe take the points lead over heading into next week that made it into the main event. Would include Dallas McIntosh, Mitchell Collins, Derek Hamill, Johnny Gardner, and Dylan Young as the green flag is in the air here for the main event. Chris Dollerton will get the early lead. Dylan Young right there in second, though. Battle is going to be for third. Might turn into a battle for second as Lopez gets a good run on the inside through that right-hander. And now we'll get alongside of Dylan Young. Well, as soon as I say that, now he loses Dylan Young, and now it's a battle for third between himself and Jesse Turner. Joe Collins right there as well in the 41. As Lopez rides it wide through that corner. Into the downhill section. Everybody, for the most part, hit their landing spot pretty well. And Chris Dollerton opens up a little bit of daylight here at the completion of the first lap. About 0.7 of a second between himself and Dylan Young. Jesse Turner now in third. Mitchell Collins currently in fourth, and right now Zach Rogers currently in the fifth position. Here's some trucks bottoming out back there, some metal scraping against the pavement section. Matthew Rodriguez making the pass on Jordan Lopez. That would be, I believe, for sixth. As Lopez falling back just a little bit. Now under fire from Jonathan Zorlin. Oh, we got a wreck! Someone wrecked. That's Dylan Young and Jesse Turner. Dylan Young, fifth in the point standings, was hoping that his transfer here via the LCQ into the main event was going to help him take the points lead over. Well, he just dropped all the way back to, I believe, dead last. Yes, he did, all the way back to 15th. And 15th only gives you 6 points. Right now, with winning the LCQ, and if he finishes where he is, he'd only get 9 points for the day. And he comes into this race 19 points behind Carson Gum. So Carson Gum, right at the moment, might be okay as far as keeping the points lead. I think now the driver he needs to worry about is this one right here, Mitchell Collins. Although he has a 22-point advantage between himself and Mitchell Collins coming into this race. So right now, with where Mitchell Collins is running, Collins finished second in the LCQ. That's 2 points he would get. And right now, currently running in fourth, that would be 18 points. So even at this point in time with where he's running, Mitchell Collins would not take the points lead away from Carson Gum. He needs to finish, I believe, either second or first in order to take the points lead away from Carson Gum. If he finishes in third, I think he and Carson would be tied for the points lead heading into next week. Jonathan Zorlin, we know, has got a fast truck, there was no battle for the lead or the win in the first heat race. He drove away from Kyle Matthews, never looked back, just dominated that first heat race. Right now he's in 6th. That win in the first heat race were his first points of the season, and now trying to build off of that. A good run right now for that 9, and boy, if he can find what he found in the first heat race, he might be able to get by these guys, get up there to the race lead. He's only right now about 3.5 seconds off the leader, Chris Dollerton. And there's Dallas McIntosh. McIntosh comes into this race, 22 points, I believe it is, behind Carson Gum. Oh, Mitchell Collins actually is 23 points back. My apologies. So if Mitchell Collins is 23 points back, then he needs to, finish 1st or 2nd in order to take the points lead away from Carson Gum. For Dallas McIntosh, he, as I said, 22 points back, and McIntosh actually finished pretty well in his heat race, so if he can get up inside the top 5, maybe 4th or 5th, he might be able to take the points lead from Carson Gum. Kyle Matthews finished runner-up in the first heat race, now making the pass on Ashland Boyd, who got in the final transfer spot, 3rd place in the LCQ. Kyle Matthews got his first points of the season with his runner-up finish in the first heat race, and right now in the 8th position. And there's Ashland Boyd right now in 9th. Completing your top 10 currently is Derek Hamill. Gonna just drop back real quickly here as Zach Rogers has moved his way up to 2nd. Matthew Rodriguez now in 3rd. I think that was due to the wreck that we just saw a while back between Dylan Young and Jesse Turner. As Dollerton continues to stretch his lead, now 2 seconds back to Zach Rogers. But let's see if Dylan Young has picked up any spots. Nope, still back in the 15th position. Kyle Thomas back here with Johnny Gardner. Jesse Turner didn't lose out nearly as much as Dylan Young. He's still ahead of at least 2 drivers. Dylan Young, though, went all the way back to dead last. And Jesse Turner, don't think his truck spun out, so he was able to keep it going. Dylan Young was facing the wrong way, so he had to spend the time getting his truck turned around. I think that's what cost him. Best battle on track right now, I believe, is going to be back here. Still between Ashland Boyd and Kyle Matthews. That is for the 8th position. Whoa! A little squirrely there was Kyle Matthews. Derek Hamill enters into this battle, as well as Carter Friesen in the 33. This is 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th right now battling. And I believe that's Kyle Thomas back there. No, that's actually Jesse Turner trying to reel in this group. Closer to the front, we might have a battle here for 3rd. Jordan Lopez trying to reel in Matthew Rodriguez. Mitchell Collins not too far back either. So right now, Chris Dollerton and Zach Rogers running just about identical lap times. Last time by was about 1.99 seconds, and then the next time by 2.01, so only 2 100ths difference. Let's actually take a look at the lap times, see if Zach Rogers is any faster, if they are about the same. Dollerton just ran his fastest lap, 54.499. Zach Rogers, 54.601, 0.2 slower. Well, actually, just about a 10th slower, really. And you can definitely see that was the case in terms of the interval as well, as a 10th was what Chris Dollerton gained on Zach Rogers. Matthew Rodriguez, he was 0.2 slower than Zach Rogers. Here's a battle. Jordan Lopez, Mitchell Collins, this is for 4th. Right now, the guy that's got to be smiling a little bit of a smile of relief would probably be Carson Gum, because the 2 drivers in particular that were his main source of competition to maybe take the points lead away from him due to him not making it into the main event, Dylan Young and Mitchell Collins, are not running where they need to be in order to mathematically take the points lead away from him. You could throw Dallas McIntosh into that as well. I don't think McIntosh is where he needs to be. McIntosh right now is in 7th, which would be 14 points. And McIntosh was, 22 points back, so he would have had to have gained 8 points in the first heat race. And I don't, off the top of my head, remember where he finished in that heat race. It's going to be close, I think, between McIntosh and Gum. Right now, Chris Dollerton just laying down really good lap times. His last lap was 54.566. Let's see what it is this time. Fastest lap of the race so far for him, 4.54. Zach Rogers with a 6.67. Rodriguez a 9.37. Is Dollerton the only one that's been running in the 4s? Let's see if anybody else ran in the 4s. Hamill was in the 6s. Friesen was in the 7s. Dollerton, I don't know if it's the clean air, clean racetrack or what. Right now, the leader is the fastest truck on the track. That is bad news for everybody else. He continues to increase his lead, and we actually might have a battle for second. Matthew Rodriguez starting to reel in Zach Rogers, which I'm a little surprised about because Rodriguez has been about 2/10 slower each lap than Zach Rogers. Maybe this lap he found something. Let's see the lap time difference between these two now, as Rodriguez is right on the back bumper. 54.995 for Rogers. Matt Rod, 54.270. I think that's the fastest lap of the race overall. That is a wicked fast lap time. Was that the fastest lap so far? Yes, it was. 2.70 for Matthew Rodriguez, and it takes place here, getting down to the closing stage. But remember in the LCQ race, that Benny Watson, who didn't transfer into the main event, he was 4th in the closing stages, but he, in the final 3 laps, his lap times got faster and faster. There might be something about that. And look at this, Matt Rod is all over the back bumper of Zach Rogers. Second place gets 22 points, third place gets 20 points, 2 points difference. So Matthew Rodriguez is trying to get his first points of the season. He already got some with transferring into the main event, but now he wants to build off of that. Trying to reel in Zach Rogers. That last time by, he was about a 10th quicker than Zach Rogers. Rogers with a 54.8. And Matthew Rodriguez with a 54.7. And if these guys keep battling, Jordan Lopez might be able to reel them in. He's run a 54.7. Chris Dollerton, though, ran a 54.5. So this is Dollerton's race to lose. There's no doubt about that. Hits his marks perfectly again. Oh, battle is on for second, and it changed hands. Rogers a little bit wide there on the landing, and that allowed Matthew Rodriguez to take away the spot. So Matt Rod moves up to second. And Chris Dollerton just ran his fastest lap of the race, 54.410. So he's kind of pulling a Benny Watson. His lap time's getting faster as the race goes on. Matthew Rodriguez has been laying down some good lap times as well, but he had to deal with Zach Rogers, and now he's got about 3.5 seconds to make up to himself and Chris Dollerton. I just don't think it's going to happen. Collins still runs there in 5th. McIntosh still there in 7th. Got to give a shout out to Jonathan Zorlin winning the first heat race in dominating fashion. Follows it up here. It looks like he will get a 6th place finish potentially here in the main event. His first appearance in the main event. Same can be said for Zach Rogers. Same can be said for Jordan Lopez, as well as Chris Dollerton and Matthew Rodriguez. All these drivers here making their first appearance in the main event and making the most of it for sure. That last time by, Matthew Rodriguez cut into Chris Dollerton's lead, but I think he'd need another 10 laps on the running, on the scheduled distance, in order to run him down, because it's less than 2 to go now. Dollerton ran a 54.9. That's the first time I've seen him run that slow of a lap time in the last few laps. And Matt Rod ran a 54.7. Boy, I don't have the running order in front of me and everything, but I think it's really going to be close between Dallas McIntosh and Carson Gum of who's going to be the points leader. It all really comes down to if McIntosh finishes in 7th and where he finished in the first heat race. White flag was just displayed for Matthew Rodriguez, who ran a 54.440. Matthew Rodriguez just a tick slower at a 4.66. And we may have a battle for third in the closing stages here, as Zach Rogers might be getting reeled in there by Jordan Lopez, although they both ran identical lap times that last time by. Mitchell Collins right there in the 5th position. Collins may not take the points lead, but is obviously going to have a really good points day and may jump up into the top 5 in points after this race is over. As Chris Dollerton through the downhill section hits it perfectly. He'll make his way through the left and right-hander. Over the jump, Chris Dollerton becomes the 3rd different driver to win this season. He'll win the main event here tonight at Monster Truck Rally. McIntosh at Coliseum, Plourd at Island Rally. Chris Dollerton here tonight at Monster Truck Rally. Did anybody have those 3 pegged as the first 3 winners of the season? Now, obviously, Chris Dollerton coming into this race with only 2 points is not going to be up there at the top of the leaderboard as far as the point standings, but this is certainly something he can build off of. With 2 races remaining in the season, I don't know, could this be the start of something to get him up there in the hunt for a championship? We're going to have to wait and see what happens in the last 2 races of the season, but this has certainly put a feather in his cap as he picks up the victory here tonight. Pretty dominating performance there for Chris Dollerton as well, and those lap times he ran were all within the 54.4s to 54.6s. And that was what kept him out in front. 3 seconds he won this race by over Matthew Rodriguez. Standings are official. And the 3 drivers we spotlighted as far as drivers that might challenge Carson Gump for the points lead. Mitchell Collins finished in 5th. And with where he was points-wise, he would have had to have finished in the top 2 to take the points lead. So I don't think he's got the points lead. Dallas McIntosh, we mentioned, 7th. So he gets 14 points here for the main event. It really all comes down to where he finished in his heat race as to whether he's going to challenge Carson Gump. And definitely somebody that will not have challenged Carson Gump is Dylan Young. Had that early trouble, had that spin out, and finished his last, 15th. He'll get 6 points, but that's not going to help him in his efforts to take the points lead away from Carson Gump, at least here this week. Chris Dollerton obviously led the most laps as well, and so he's going to get 3 bonus points for that also. So Chris Dollerton, 28 points he will get here in the main event, and then you add on what he got for his finish in his heat race. He's going to be in a very good position, I think. He might jump, boy, I don't know if he would jump up into the top 10 in points or not. He'll at least maybe be up in the top 15. Just shows you what a win can do for you, especially as far as the points you get here in the main event. Matthew Rodriguez will have to settle for 2nd, but a great run for him. Zach Rogers in 3rd, 4th for Jordan Lopez. The top 4, this is the first time they appeared in the main event this season. Mitchell Collins in 5th. Jonathan Zorlin, after winning his heat race, he'll finish in 6th in his first main event start. Then it was McIntosh, Ashland Boyd, Derek Hamill, and Carter Friesen, your top 10. Then Matthews, Turner, Johnny Gardner, Kyle Thomas, and Dylan Young were the remainder of your finishing results here in the main event. Well, I'm not sure where we're going next week. We were supposed to be at Riverside Rally this week, but it kept crashing my computer, kept crashing Fraps, so we had to change to here. So I don't know where we're going to be going, but hope you'll tune into wherever it's going to be, as it's sure to probably be still a wild one. We've got 2 more races till we crown a champion here in the NSCRA Stadium Super Truck Series. Till then, I've been Seth Cole. You've been watching Production NSCRA Offline Race at its best. Point standings are down in the description below after this race, and I will see you guys next week.